Hi, this is Debbie from Lime Doodle Design, and I'm delighted to be guesting for Mama Elephant today. I'm going to be using a couple of the new Halloween sets that were released in August, Meowloween and Meowloween Extras, but I'm going to be concentrating mainly on the cute mice that were in the Meowloween Extras set. I'm also going to be using the log from the Woodland Gift set and also the broom from the Meowloween set. I've stamped all of those images with Memento Tuxedo Black as I'm going to be Copic colouring. That's a good Copic friendly ink, and I've die cut them with their matching dies. Before moving on to colouring, I'm quickly working out a little scene for them, with one on the broom waving and then the other two on the log. This will give me a better idea of where I want to add shading when I come to Copic colour. These are the colours I'm going to be using, and I like to keep those in a mug off to the side, and then I can reach for them easily as I need them. I've sped up this video now so that I can get as much of the colouring in as possible without making the video too long. I'll put all the lids at the top so that you can see what colours I'm using. And I'm going to start by colouring in the pumpkin parts of the mice, and I really like this colourway for pumpkins. It's YR23, YR24 and YR27. They're not a bright orange, it's much more of a muted, natural looking colourway, and I use this for pumpkins, for foxes, and it also makes a great colourway for redheads. As I usually do with Copic colouring, I've started with the lightest shade and then added the medium shade followed by the dark shade. However, with this colourway, I do feel that the YR27, there's not a great deal of contrast, and so I usually use a little bit of W5 to add some depth to the side where there's going to be more shadows, and then I blend that back out with YR27 and then work my way through to the lighter shades. And I usually leave one area which is white until the end, and that's the lightest area of the colouring, and then finally I go over that with the lightest shade. Of course, these cute mice have got to have pink ears, so I've added some R12 marker into the depth of the shadow of the ear area and then blended that out with a W1 marker. This will mute down the colour of the pink slightly and just make it look a little bit more realistic and more in tone with the muted colours of the pumpkin. I'll play some music while I continue to colour in the mice, and I'll be back soon. That's all the colouring completed. I've even added some glossy accents to the mice's eyes, the two of them that had their eyes open, and I've given lots of Wing of Stella over everywhere to give it a good Halloweeny sparkle. I'm running through the scene again just to see how things are looking, and I felt that some grass would help to ground the log. I'm using the Just Hatch set from Mama Elephant along with their matching dies, and I've mounted the grass image from the set onto the Misty stamping tool. I used two different inks with this image. Initially I used Catkin ink from Samsy Stamp, and then I continue on and use olive ink, although I didn't end up using the olive image in the end. I'm using some washi tape to help keep the die in place while I run it through my die cutting machine. Now I've got all the elements together, I've arranged them on the top folding card base that's made out of Nina Solar White in the £110 weight, so it's nice and sturdy, and I've cut it to be a top folding 4-bar card. And I'm going to blend some inks into the background. I'm going to be using Catkin and Olive, Sea Glass and Lake Shores, and all of those are from Simon Says Stamp. When you are blending ink from the centre of a panel, you really need to start with a light hand. Slowly add more ink, go back in, add some deeper colours, and then blend that out. All of these are dye inks, so they will lighten and soften over time. To create more interest to the background, I've got some Gansei Tambi watercolour paints, and I've created a pale pool watercolour solution, and picking that up with a paintbrush and then splattering it onto the panel. Oh, that's the other thing, I've now cut this down to a panel. There was a couple of areas of the blended ink background that I wasn't happy with, So I cut it from the card base and made it into a 3 1/4 by 4 3/4 panel, and then I'll later mount that onto a card base. Having splattered pool and then green watercolour over the panel, I've now moved on to splattering a solution of perfect pearls, and all of these different solutions will add variation and interest to the background. I love the speech bubble in the Meowloween extra set. I've stamped and die cut that, and now I'm test running a sentiment for it. Stamping a sentiment onto some scrap paper will make sure that you get a good impression first time. I added some extra Copic detail to the grass, and now it's time to put this together. I've added foam adhesive to all the pieces. I'll remove the backers and then put everything in place. I've added foam adhesive to the back of this panel, and then I'll put that on top of the card base. To finish the card, I've got a selection of sequins, and I'm attaching those with Ranger Multimedium in matte, and that completes this card, all sparkly, splattery, inky and cute. Thank you for joining me today. I'll leave you with some photographs, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. I'll list all the products I've used in the YouTube description and also over on my blog, Blind Doodle Design.